Hello everyone, this is Nyessa, and welcome back to the third and final part of the 200 subscribers Q&A session. So I'm going to go ahead and put up on the screen the names of the people that we'll be hearing questions from today. And let's get back into it and wrap this up. The first couple of questions for part 3 come from Wingedpug C, who asked these questions actually on some of the older videos from the Skyrim series. So Wingedpug C's first question is, kind of a long one, why did you choose to have her born under the sign of the thief? I didn't know the Guardian Stones were supposed to be like the star signs from Oblivion. I thought they were just stones the NPCs prayed to for various blessings, and there are 13 of them. Are there 13 months in Tamriel? This question combines two of my favorite things, lore and backstory. So to answer the first part, the reason why I chose to have her born under the sign of the thief, it actually wasn't intentional. What I did was I decided what her birthday would be first, and then from there figured out which sign that would be. And, usually your character's birthday isn't a very important thing to figure out, but it was kind of relevant in the case of Edda's story. And in fact, there is only a narrow window of time in which she could have been conceived, and therefore a narrow window in which she could have been born. So I figured out first when she was most likely to be conceived, and calculated from there what month she would be born in, which was Evening Star. And at first I had her birthday as the 25th, but then I realized that Evening Star is the Elder Scrolls equivalent of December, so her birthday would have been Christmas. And that was too much symbolism even for me, so I decided to change it. And I went back to the 15th instead, which turned out to be another holiday in Elder Scrolls lore, but at least it wasn't Christmas. As far as the Guardian Stones are concerned, yes, they are directly related to each of the star signs that you could choose in Morrowind and Oblivion. But there are only 12 months in Tamriel, and those 12 months are equivalent in the number of days to the months that we have on our calendar. The 13th star sign, which is not attached to any particular month, is the Serpent. And the reason that's not attached to a specific month is because the Serpent constellation moves around in the sky and doesn't remain in the same place throughout the year. So because of that, there are 12 months, but 13 star signs. Now, an interesting bit of trivia about Edda's star sign, the Thief. People who are born under the sign of the Thief are usually risk takers, which might not seem like Edda at first, but you'll notice that often her curiosity gets the better of her, even when she's trying to be cautious. Another interesting thing is that according to some sources, the constellation of the Thief includes the planet Arche. The planet Arche is sometimes known as the Eye of the Thief. So, given Edda's devotion to the god Arche, make of that what you will. The next question from Wingedpug C is, will Edda ever consider making armor or weapons out of those bones and scales? So, eventually she probably will, but it's going to take her a while to get to that point. For one, she definitely has to raise her smithing skill a lot higher, which is going to take a while. And I've noticed doing this Let's Play that I'm spending a lot less time working on the crafting skills than I would do if I were doing a normal playthrough on my own. Just because it's not really interesting to record a bunch of grinding of skills. and I haven't really thought about it otherwise, so all of the smithing Etta has done so far has been necessary items, things that she needed, and no real practice. But I'm going to correct that soon and have her get some actual practice in, maybe even buy some training at some point before too long, and hopefully we can keep her smithing skills at a good pace compared to the other skills that she is learning as she goes along. The other thing is that she just hasn't thought of the possibility of making armor or weapons out of dragon remains yet. Right now, they're just sort of, well, they're more a problem than anything else. There's something she needs to get rid of because she really doesn't have the strength to carry them around all the time, and she doesn't have a place where she could store them away until they're needed. I suppose she could take them back to the house in Iverstead, but she's not planning on going back there very often. Really, she's only going to go back in the end before it's time for her to leave Skyrim. So she doesn't have the storage, she doesn't want to carry them around with her, she really doesn't want to have all of this evidence of her dragon slaying activities either. So her plan is to just get rid of most of them as she goes along, preferably sell them to the Khajiit caravans because they pay a good price and they seem to be pretty discreet. So she's only keeping 1 or 2 pieces around as a sort of souvenir. But eventually, she will start thinking in terms of what these materials could be used to make. It'll just be a while before she gets there. The final set of questions come from somebody who is actually a good friend of mine in real life, but here I will call her by her gaming name, which is MageTankRum. And Rum's first question is, how long will Rumarin be sticking around? Now this is a question that I think many of you will be interested in hearing the answer to, since Rumarin seems to be a very popular follower at this point. But I'm afraid I may have to disappoint you a bit, at least for now. So, for any follower of Etta's during this sort of first part of her story, she's not going to keep any of them with her for very long at a time. In fact, she's not likely to take anyone along with her for more than 1 or 2 holds. Etta has a very specific itinerary that she's going to follow on her first pass, if you will, through Skyrim. And that includes frequent visits back to Whiterun to do things like pick up her mail, for example. However, she, at this point, is not willing to take any follower back to Whiterun unless she actually met them in Whiterun, because she doesn't want people finding out too much about this whole Dragonborn business that she's found herself caught up in. She also doesn't want anyone to figure out what exactly it is that she's doing in Skyrim besides being a bard. She doesn't want to know about her plan, her intention to gather information about both sides of the war to report back to her mother. So because of that, she's not going to keep any follower with her for very long at a time. Unfortunately, she's going to be headed back to Whiterun soon, which means that Rumarin is going to have to stay behind. But I will give you this. Just because she leaves a follower behind at some point doesn't mean that she won't be going back to them later. And I have the feeling that Rumarin is one companion that she is likely to seek out again. So I can't guarantee it, but I think it's a pretty safe bet that we will be seeing Rumarin again in the future, even if we have to say farewell to him temporarily. Rum's next question is also about followers, and she asks, how many followers will Etta pick up? Will she ever have multiple followers at the same time? So the first part of that is a little bit trickier to answer because a lot of that will depend on how things shake out as we go along. I do have in mind at least 3 who we'll be seeing sometime in the not too distant future. 2 for sure that we'll be seeing before the ending of the first season, and there are others who we're also likely to pick up later on down the line. However, I can't really say for sure who will pick up or how many there will be in total, just that there will be at least 3 more who we see before too long. As for multiple followers, possibly. I don't know yet. That will also depend on how things go. I do have amazing follower tweaks, which allows me to pick up multiple followers, which would not normally be possible in the base game. And I finally remembered that I actually need the compatibility patch for interesting NPCs and amazing follower tweaks. So that means once I get that installed, that I should be able to have multiple followers from interesting NPCs. But whether or not I actually use multiple followers, we'll see. If I do, it probably won't be for very long at a time. It'll probably be a case where there's one main follower who I keep with me for a while, and then every once in a while we might pick up a second follower for a particular quest or a particular area, but not keep that secondary follower along for very long. But you never know. This is one of those things that I haven't specifically planned out. And it may turn out that Etta gets really attached to more than one follower and wants to bring them both along with her for the long term. But that kind of situation is going to be fairly far in the future and not something we're likely to see soon. Rum's third question is, are you going to use the claw that you bought, and are you going to go after all the dragon claws eventually? So, regarding the claw that Etta bought from Birna up in Winterhold, yes, she is planning on going after that, or at least attempting it. Now, traditionally, in my other playthroughs, I've had a lot of trouble with that particular dungeon. And I know a lot of people have had bugs there, but I also found that it was pretty difficult for me. Now, I don't know if Etta is ready for it yet. So we'll have to see how that goes when she actually gets there. Now, I will say that I have never attempted to do that dungeon with any followers, so it may end up being easier than I expect just because I'm likely to have somebody else tagging along and helping out. But it may end up that Etta's going to have to turn tail and run so that she can come back and try again another day when she's gotten stronger. We'll just have to see how that goes. Now for the other dragon claws, I don't intend to seek them out specifically, but any dragon claw that Etta comes across, she's very likely to use. She has this sneaking suspicion that these dragon claws are somehow related to the dragon words, because going through Bleak Falls Barrow, it seemed that the word wall that she first encountered there was being protected by the door that the Golden Claw unlocked. So she wants to see if this other claw she has, and maybe other claws besides that, will lead to the same sort of wall so that she could learn more words. Though she isn't totally sure at this point that she wants to learn more dragon shouts. It's not something that she's terribly enthusiastic about. It's very unsettling for her, and she doesn't really consider herself the type of person who ought to be granted this ability. But she does want to find out more about what's going on, And the dragon claws, specifically this dragon claw that she just bought in Winterhold, seems like a reasonable place to start finding out more. So the fourth question from Rum is, do we ever meet Edda's mother? And boy, is that a doozy of a question. So I'm sure this is something that others have been wondering as well, considering that I've been modding various bits of Edda's backstory and family history into the game, especially in the form of the house in Iverstead. It's a logical question to wonder if Edda's mother, Rona, is also someone that could be modded in the same way. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to say that I can't answer that question directly because it is a spoiler. And I know Rum in particular really dislikes spoilers, so I'm gonna have to not answer directly. What I can tell you is what Edda expects to happen, because she and her mother came up with this plan before she ever came to Skyrim, and they do have an idea of what they want to happen. So here is what they intend. The plan is for Edda to do a full tour of the holds of Skyrim, and once she has completed the circuit, gone through every hold, met every Jarl, and gotten a sense of what's going on with the war, she's going to send a letter back letting her mother know that she has been to every hold. Then, when that happens, she is going to go back to Iverstead, where she will meet Rona. Once Rona gets the letter, she's going to leave the little village in Bruma County, head north into Skyrim, and meet up with Edda in Iverstead at their old family home. At this point, Edda is to give her full report to her mother, to tell her all the things that she couldn't safely put into writing and send with a courier because of the possibility of the letters getting intercepted. Then first Edda will give her recommendation about which side Edda's mother should choose, or if she should just stay out of the conflict altogether. Then Rona will go on her way, do what she needs to do, whatever that ends up being, and Edda plans at that point to return home to Bruma and resume her normal life as a bard working in one of Bruma's inns. Now, we all know, especially in a story like this, that plans change. So, will Edda and her mother end up meeting up in Iverstead? Or will that plan fall through? Will they end up meeting somewhere else down the line instead? That's hard to say, and I'm not going to give you a straight answer to that, because I'll have to let you come up with your own predictions for what will happen so that I can avoid giving any spoilers. Rest assured, though, Edda's mother will remain important to the series one way or another throughout the whole story. Whether or not she's there physically, we have gotten a chance to get to know her a little bit through her letters, though I will also say that her style of writing letters does not really accurately reflect what it's like to interact with her face to face. So you're getting a taste of what she's like, but it's not the whole picture of what kind of person she is. We will be finding out more about her, whether through her letters or through other means, but whether or not we meet her in person, face to face, well, we shall see. The final question from MageTankRum, and the final question of this Q&A session, is this: are you ever going to the Bard's College? So, short answer, yes. A long answer, definitely. After all, how could I create a bard character and not go to the Bard's College? It may not be one of the major factions, which is why I didn't mention it earlier, but it's pretty much the only thing that would have dragged Edda all the way out to Skyrim besides her mother. So if she were ever going to come to Skyrim on her own, it would be for the Bard's College. Because of that, there is no way in Oblivion that she would possibly pass up the opportunity to visit the Bard's College now that she has it. As far as she knows, once she's done with her plan in Skyrim and she goes back to Bruma, she's never coming back. So she's definitely not going to miss the chance to visit the world-famous Bard's College in Solitude and at least look around, but hopefully get some instruction there as well. But as with all things in Skyrim, we'll see how that actually turns out. So that wraps up the final question for our question and answer session to celebrate 200 subscribers to the channel. I'm so grateful to all of you who are subscribed, who watch the videos, who make comments, who like the videos. You keep me going. And y'all had some really great questions for me for this Q&A. I wasn't sure how many of you would actually have questions, but you really pulled through and kept me going for quite a while answering them. So I'm hoping that at some point in the future I may do more Q&A videos. Maybe some of them will be more focused, or maybe some of them will be broad ones like this one is. But for now, thank you so much for your questions and for your time, and I will see you back in the game.